You owe money on your student loans and you haven't been paying them. I got bad news for you. If your student loans are in default, back during COVID, the Trump administration put in a temporary policy that said, hey, we know times are tough right now. A lot of people are out of work. If your student loans are in default, we're not going to collect on them. So they're not going to garnish your wages. They're not going to seize your tax returns, those types of things, right? That was initially supposed to be a temporary relief for people that were really going through it. And I understood that was a common sense thing they could have done. Hey, let's put a hold on this and just help people out. Give people an extra $200-300 a month in their pocket. It made perfect sense at the time. The problem is, when we got well out of COVID, the next administration, the dementia administration, decided it was simply just going to kick the can down the road on the student debt issue and pass it on to whoever came next. Biden, potentially his VP, could have been the one that got stuck with this. But the Trump administration decided a week ago that collections on these defaulted loans are going to resume. And of course, people are in hysterics right now. How dare they? This is cruel and unusual. Well, no, this is no different than it was 6 years ago. This isn't tyrannical. You have a debt. You didn't pay your debt. Now the creditor is coming to collect on it. That's how this works. You didn't take advantage of the 0% interest that we had for a couple of years. You didn't take advantage of the time period that when they weren't collecting to get your finances right. And I'm not going to judge people. Everyone's got their own individual situation. But that's the reality of it. And this is a tough pill for some of you to swallow. But this is what you need. This is going to be good for you long term. If your student debt was in default and you weren't paying on it, the best thing that could have happened to you is somebody came and said, hey, we're going to start collecting on this now. You're going to start paying the piper. And here's why. Every election cycle, we hear the same thing. We get a couple of radical politicians who try to come out and they try to tell you that they're going to do away with student debt. They're going to we need to waive student debt. It's a talking point. It's an easy sell because who doesn't, like I said, who doesn't want $200-300 extra a month in their pocket? It's an easy sell that they're just going to come in, wave this magic wand, and wipe federal student debt away. Well, it's not realistic. Why can't we do it? That's what's going on in Europe. Well, no, Europe has state-run public or higher education. Now, I don't agree with having state-run higher education, but they don't have student debt over there. It's apples to oranges. We have to live in the real world. Maybe you idealistically think that that's what the system here should be, and we can have that debate another time. But that's not the case with the current student debt holders. Here's what a lot of people don't realize. Federally held student loans currently, as of this recording, as of this show here on the 30th of April, federally held student loan debt currently makes up over 1/3 of the United States federal government's total assets. Under no circumstances, I don't care who the president was, if it was Trump, if it was Biden, Bernie, AOC, it doesn't matter. Under no circumstances was the federal government ever going to part with 1/3 of its assets. That would bankrupt the country overnight. It was never going to happen. Those of you who were told by grifters on the radical left, whether they were grifting for power or money or fame or whatever the case may be, those of you who were told by grifters that they were going to get rid of these student loans someday, you've been sold a lie. And all of the late fees and all of the interest that's piled up while you've ignored these payments, you can attribute to those people. Not entirely. Some of it's your fault because you should have been just paying your debts back. But you can thank them for selling you a bag of magic beans that was never going to grow into anything. Totally unrealistic. It was never going to happen. They knew it was never going to happen, but they told you they were going to do it anyway because it got them the book deals, it got them the press tours, it got them into the national conversation in American politics, and it got them reelected over and over and over and over again. But deep down in their heart of hearts, they knew it was completely infeasible for the United States government to part with 1/3 of its total assets overnight. It wasn't going to happen, and they knew that, and they lied to you. And do you want to know the worst part about this? Is these people would have been content lying to you until they were dead and gone, and you were 75 years old, owing 8 times as much on your student loans as you originally took out. Working at Walmart, just trying to keep your house from getting repossessed. They would have been more than happy to leave you out to dry, knowing that they had made millions and millions of dollars and ascended to levels of power beyond your comprehension off of a lie. They would have had no problem doing that. What the Trump administration is doing here, remember when we talked about the Fort Knox thing and about what chaos it would be, but that chaos only gets worse the longer you wait? What the Trump, let's say you're 30 years old and you haven't paid on your student debt in 5 years. You're about to go into collections. You're about to go into garnishment, and you're scared to death, and you should be, because life's going to get tough for a bit here. What the Trump administration just did is the equivalent of what I was talking about with the Fort Knox situation. Let's say you're engaged to a girl, head over heels in love with her, or you're engaged to a guy, head over heels in love with him. But these last couple months, you're about 6 months from the wedding, these last couple months, everything just seems a little off. She's cold, she's distant, she's not replying to your texts as quickly. She goes to the bathroom to check her phone. Something's going on. New perfume, what's going on here? So she says she's going to go out for girls' night. Hey, I think I'm going to go watch the fight with my buddies. That's what you tell her in return. But you don't go watch the fight with your buddies. You follow her. A couple car lengths behind, because that's how far back you stay from a woman when you're harassing her. Not that I would know. And she don't go out to girls' night. No. She just linked up with Kevin from work. You know that guy you saw at the company Christmas party last year? Just gave you a weird vibe, but you thought, I'm just overreacting. Just my stupid, overactive imagination. Well, she's linking up with Kevin. And she just went home with Kevin. Now, your world is absolutely crushed right now. Destroyed right now. You don't know what to do. Horrible. And I'm not downplaying it. It is a horrible thing to find out. And your world comes to a screeching halt and you don't know what to do and you're left to pick up the pieces. But it's better you find out now than 10 years down the road, after I do, after a mortgage, after a couple of kids, after she gets half your retirement accounts. It's better you find out now. It's never going to be easy, but the sooner you find out and the sooner you start doing something about it, the better off you're going to be. I can use this analogy 100 different times. 100 different times. Let's say you go to the doctor just for your annual checkup. The doctor sees a weird, out-of-shape mole, so he decides to send you to the dermatologist. Dermatologist goes, yep, that's melanoma, and they cut it out. And they caught it. They're like, great news. We caught it really early. It hasn't spread or anything like that. We just got to come in 2-3 times a year, get your skin checked. Now, if the doctor would have went, that looks a little odd. Whatever. And ignored it. Might have made you feel good in the moment, the same way that not having to pay your student loans makes you feel good in the moment. But 5 years down the road, when that shit spread to your pancreas and your kidneys and your lungs, and you're on your deathbed at 30, for something that could have been easily treated, you would have wished that doctor would have sent you that referral. The same way when you're 70 years old, staring down the barrel of never retiring, because that's what'll happen to you, you're going to be wishing, man, I wish somebody would have, you're going to be thinking, man, I wish somebody would have come and collected on that student debt. Because waiving, it's not an option. That's never going to happen. That is a pipe dream. Student debt in our lifetime, federal student debt, unless you went to one of those colleges that was like a scam and they have to pay it back, federal student debt for the average 4-year college education for people that aren't working in jobs that are guaranteed reimbursements will never be waived. Ever. Under any circumstances. It will not happen in our lifetime. Take that to the bank and then apply it to your student debt principal immediately. I can use this over and over and over again. I'm doing some minor repairs to the foundation of my house. Not anything crazy. I don't have to have it like replaced or stilted or put on stints or anything like that. I've got some cracks I got to fill in. I got to grind open and fill in. It's the whole thing. I like to go with examples that are relevant to me. I had a guy come out and look at it, and he said, most people leave these, but here's the problem, is this is going to cause significant water damage to your house to the tune of $10,000 to $20,000 if you don't do something about this. Now, it won't do it today, and it's going to cost me hours and hours of time and probably like $1,000 or $2,000 to fix this. And it sucks and it's annoying and I'm frustrated that this is how I have to spend my time when this should have been nipped in the bud before I even bought the fucking house. But it's a whole lot better than having a bunch of water leak into my foundation and leak into my garage and leak into my basement and cause $30,000 worth of damage. I'm addressing the problem now. Because the reality of this situation is a lot of people who have been sold this bullshit lie by these politicians, these socialist politicians, that they're going to forgive their student loans, or even Joe Biden. Joe Biden knew, his administration knew, going into the 2022 midterms when they tried to waive that $20,000 in student debt for everybody, they knew for a fact that there was no way in hell that was ever going to make it to the Supreme Court. They were buying votes. They were hoping that they could stall long enough until it was after the midterms. They could just throw their arms up and go, well, we tried. Do you want to know how I know that they knew that wasn't going to go through? Because if they had any inkling of doubt that the Supreme Court would have allowed that student debt relief to go through, they never would have done it. They never would have parted with that significant of a cut of the federal government's assets. It wouldn't have been the full 33%, but it would have been a substantial amount. They never would have been willing to part with it. They would not have played that game. The powers that be, his handlers, never would have allowed him to do that. His advisors, nobody. So you guys, there's a lot of people out there that had the Trump administration not given them this blessing in disguise of collecting on the debt, which is what this is, they would have continued to kick the can down the road. 30 years would go by. They'd be, 60, 65 years old on the brink of retirement, meeting with their financial advisors, and they would realize that there was no way in hell they were going to be able to retire by the age of 90 because they were in so much student loan debt. So much student loan debt that they had ignored out of the hopes that some grifter who's long dead at this point was going to waive this student debt, was going to make it disappear. And these people should be ashamed of themselves for the lie they have sold to people who are clearly desperate. I mean, I hear these horror stories about people that are $300,000 in debt for a student loan or for a college degree that they don't even use, and they're making $40,000 a year. I'd vote for Bernie Sanders too. I'd feel like that was my only hope, is if somebody, to get out of this mountain of debt that I was in. If somebody like that got into office, I don't blame them. And that makes what these people are doing, given the fact that they know it's completely unrealistic, even more despicable. The way they have toyed with people's financial situations for political and monetary gain. They should be ashamed of themselves. And one day they're going to have to answer for it to somebody who's got way more of a say in how things are run than you or me or any student loan servicer that's going to collect on your debt in a couple of months here. Moral of the story is, if you do have student loans, you should pay them. Get just Dave Ramsey, snowball method, rice and beans, beans and rice. We all got them. I got some still for a degree I don't use. that I didn't finish. We all got student debt. Like it's fine, dude. It's nothing to be ashamed of, you know. You got sold a bag of goods, you got lied to. If you're my age or a little bit older or a little bit younger, I think they're finally starting to turn the page in schools now. But you got told, we all got told by these teachers that I call it the educational industrial complex, where they just try to funnel kids into higher education. We all got told, you know, if you don't go to a 4-year college and get your bachelor's degree, you're going to be a criminal. You're going to be dead. You're going to be a Walmart greeter until you retire. You're going to live in poverty, digging ditches and, you know, with the prisoners. Just a total fuck up if you don't go to college. So I do have sympathy because we got lied to when we were kids. Our formative years, the time when our minds are most susceptible to manipulation. Trusted adults, the teachers, people we spent every day with, more time than our parents in a lot of cases. People we trusted sat down and lied to every last one of us. And I don't think they had anything nefarious going on. I think they had been unfortunately misled by this same educational industrial complex. And I think it compromised a lot of people's parents too, because when the teachers put the pressure on the kids to go to college, the kids going to college becomes a status symbol for the parents. And the parents then turn around and they work on behalf of the educational industrial complex as well. And they pressure the kids into going to college so that they can keep up with the Joneses. Well, my daughter got into, you know, blah, blah, blah university. Oh, my daughter got into so-and-so college last week. She was accepted. And you strap your kids with $90,000 worth of student loan debt for a degree that is going to be totally useless in 10 years with the way technology is advancing. And they don't know what to do with it. And you're not going to pay that back. And you did it as a status symbol to keep up with your friends as if that matters. I'm not saying don't push your kids. Fortunately, my parents, I know we make jokes on here about my upbringing, but my parents never gave us this illusion that it was college or bust. You know, we weren't told not to go to college, but we were never told, that if the message was not reiterated at home to the degree that it was with a lot of my friends. We'll put it that way. And I got off lucky. You know, otherwise I would have gone straight into college at 18 years old. Dude, your brain's not developed till it's 25, till you're 25. I was getting tattoos at like 16. I had people, the same teachers telling me that I was going to regret these tattoos when I was in my 30s, would then turn around and in the next breath tell me that I needed to know what I wanted to do for the rest of my life at 18, 17 years old in a lot of cases, because that's when you got to start shopping for colleges, and be willing to commit 5 to 6 figures worth of debt for it. And I don't think they even realized what they were doing. I don't think this was nefarious. I think that was just what they did. Thank God, because I was an impulsive idiot when I was 18 years old. Thank God I didn't listen to them. My rebellious streak was probably my saving grace in my teen years, if you want me to be completely honest. That I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I was bound and determined to not take the traditional route that all of my friends were going to take and go to college. And I went out and I did my own thing. Now it's just story time at this point. I went out and I did my own thing for a little bit. Went, okay, I'm going to try the college thing. Went to school part-time, did that for a couple years. Changed majors like 2 or 3 times. Decided not for me. I'm going to do my own thing. And I'm not rich by any means, but I'll leave it at this. I have about 1/4 of the debt that I would have had I finished. And I make about twice as much as I would be making right now had I finished my degree. Mia's the same way. Mia went to college. She's more educated than me. When I say she's more educated than me on the show, I'm serious. Mia has a degree she does not use. A lot of people have degrees they do not use. That is not unusual. It is not anything to be ashamed of. You shouldn't feel ashamed that you were conned when you were a child, when every trusted adult in your life was telling you this was something you had to do. There's nothing wrong with that. It is what it is, but we all need to take responsibility for it as well, because the reality of this student debt crisis is nobody is coming to the rescue. Nobody. We are on our own here, and we need to climb our way out of this hole. I'm on a soapbox getting preachy with you. I don't want to take too much more time up on this subject, but it's something that it's frustrating to people. They strapped a lot of people with debt and crippled what would have been the middle class for an entire generation. And it seems like the Zoomers are starting to catch on, and this Gen Alpha that's coming up are starting to catch on, which is very promising to me. I've said this time and time again. I think the country would be a whole lot better off if 2/3 of the colleges in this country went under tomorrow. Be a whole lot better off long term. You want to learn about things? There's lectures from some of the greatest professors in the world on YouTube that you can get for free. Podcast interviews with them. Little infographic documentaries you can watch that are far more qualified and far more interesting from people who are far more knowledgeable on the subject matter than the burnout that's teaching down at the state college because he wasn't good at anything else and was a forever child that wanted to stay in academia for the rest of his life. That's another reason why they push this educational industrial complex, because they got to keep the cash flow coming, keep their professions intact. It's just one giant scam. You know, if you want to learn about business, let me ask you a question, bro. Like, I know people that are going for like I remember people going for like business degrees and stuff in college. And I remember thinking, hold on, think about this for a second. If your business professor knew what the fuck he was talking about, don't you think he would be out running his own business rather than teaching at a community college for like $15 an hour right now? Don't you think he would be doing that instead? Now, I'm not going to sit here and say every college professor I had was a loser. There were some cool ones, some knowledgeable ones, some interesting ones. Yeah, of course. But the overwhelming majority of these people that throw the word professor, or even in some cases, my favorite, doctor, by their names, are stuck up, arrogant losers that are good at absolutely nothing else and are capable of contributing absolutely nothing else to society. So they don't stay in academia. They hide in academia where they can't be fired unless they do something egregious. And sometimes even then they don't get fired. I love that when these college professors would throw doctor by their name so arrogantly. Here's my standard for a doctor. Okay, here's my standard for a doctor. You have to check one of the two boxes. If I have a fucking heart attack right now in your presence, am I going to die? If the answer to that question is no, and you're also not capable of filling in a cavity in my tooth, you're not a doctor. You're educated, you're well-esteemed, whatever you want to call yourself, whatever you want. I will not call you a doctor the same way I will not call Jesse, the male named Jesse, that decided he's going to be Jessica because he threw on some makeup, a dress, and some long hair. I'm not going to call him Jessica. Okay, Jesse was probably a bad name because that was a bad example. That was not really a gender binary name there. But I'm not going to call Adam Alexis. How about that? Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw, be sure to click the link in the description to get the full episode on Rumble. If you prefer to listen along, you could actually get us on Spotify, Spreaker, and iHeartRadio. You can also go to www.outlawstreamers.com to learn more about not just my show, but tons of other great shows and all the exciting projects they have coming up. Follow my socials at Caleb Isn't Funny on Twitter and Instagram, at Caleb Salvatore Comedy on the Chinese Spy app that is TikTok, and be sure to like and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Thanks, and we'll see you every Saturday for brand new episodes of That's Based. Peace.